War has shaped the course of human history, but it has also left devastating consequences. Today, we're counting down the top 10 deadliest wars ranked by fatalities. These conflicts have claimed millions of lives, leaving behind scars that shaped the world we live in today. We'll dive into each war's historical context, key events, and human toll. Prepare to uncover stories of resilience, destruction, and lessons learned from the bloodiest chapters of our past. Let's begin. Number 10. Korean War, 1950 to 1953, 2 to 3 million deaths. The Korean War erupted as North Korea, backed by the Soviet Union and China, invaded South Korea, supported by the US and United Nations. This brutal conflict claimed the lives of 2 to 3 million people, including civilians caught in the crossfire. Fighting was intense, with pivotal battles like the Incheon Landing and the Battle of Busan Perimeter. The war ended in an armistice, leaving Korea divided at the 38th parallel. The DMZ remains one of the most heavily fortified borders in the world. Its legacy continues to shape tensions on the Korean peninsula. Number 9. Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975, 2 to 3 million deaths. The Vietnam War was a Cold War-era conflict between Communist North Vietnam and anti-Communist South Vietnam, supported by the US. Over 2 to 3 million people lost their lives, including many civilians. The war saw devastating tactics like the use of napalm, Agent Orange, and the Tet Offensive. It also spurred significant anti-war movements, particularly in the US. After years of brutal fighting, North Vietnam emerged victorious, leading to the unification of Vietnam under communist rule. The war left lasting scars on Vietnamese society and American politics. Number 8. Napoleonic Wars, 1803 to 1815, 3.5 to 6 million deaths. The Napoleonic Wars engulfed Europe as Napoleon Bonaparte sought to dominate the continent. Spanning over a decade, these wars involved nearly every major European power. Famous battles like Waterloo and Austerlitz showcased the era's military innovation. An estimated 3.5 to 6 million people perished, including both soldiers and civilians. The conflict ended with Napoleon's defeat and exile, reshaping Europe's borders. Its legacy includes modern warfare tactics and the rise of nationalism. Number 7. The Second Congo War, 1998-2003, 5.4 million deaths. Known as Africa's Great War, the Second Congo War involved 9 nations and dozens of armed groups. The conflict was driven by competition over the Democratic Republic of Congo's vast mineral wealth. While direct fighting caused significant deaths, the majority resulted from starvation, disease, and displacement. An estimated 5.4 million people lost their lives, making it the deadliest conflict in Africa's modern history. Despite a peace agreement in 2003, violence continues in some regions. The war's impact persists, leaving communities struggling to rebuild and secure lasting peace. Number 6. Russian Civil War, 1917 to 1923, 7 to 12 million deaths. The Russian Civil War followed the Russian Revolution, pitting the Red Army against the anti-Bolshevik White Army. Chaos, famine, and disease exacerbated the war's death toll, which reached an estimated 7 to 12 million. The collapse of the Russian Empire created a power vacuum that intensified the conflict. Ultimately, the Bolsheviks established Soviet rule, reshaping global politics for decades. The war also devastated Russia's economy and infrastructure. Its impact laid the foundation for the Soviet Union's rise. Number 5. 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, 8 million deaths. One of Europe's most destructive wars, the 30 Years' War, began as a religious conflict between Protestants and Catholics. It expanded into a struggle for political power among European states, particularly the Holy Roman Empire, France, and Sweden. Over 8 million people died, with many fatalities caused by famine and disease. The war ravaged Central Europe, especially the German territories, leaving widespread destruction. The Treaty of Westphalia ended the conflict, reshaping European diplomacy. This war marked the beginning of the modern state system. Number 4. World War I, 1914 to 1918. 15 to 20 million deaths. World War I, known as the Great War, introduced the horrors of industrialized warfare. Trench warfare, chemical weapons, and mass mobilization defined the conflict. An estimated 15 to 20 million people died, including soldiers and civilians affected by famine and disease. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand sparked a global conflict involving the Allied and Central Powers. The Treaty of Versailles ended the war but sowed seeds of resentment, particularly in Germany. The war reshaped global politics and led to the collapse of empires like Austro-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. Number 3. Taiping Rebellion, 1850 to 1864. 20 to 30 million deaths. The Taiping Rebellion was a massive civil war in China, led by Hong Xiuquan, who claimed to be the brother of Jesus Christ. It began as a religious movement, but evolved into a rebellion against the Qing dynasty. The conflict devastated China, with 20 to 30 million lives lost to warfare, famine, and disease. Entire cities were destroyed, and millions were displaced in one of history's bloodiest uprisings. The rebellion ultimately failed, but it weakened the Qing government. This instability contributed to the dynasty's eventual collapse in the early 20th century. Number 2. The Second Sino-Japanese War, 1937 to 1945, 20 to 40 million deaths. Often considered part of World War II, the Second Sino-Japanese War was a brutal conflict between China and Japan. The war began with Japan's invasion of China, resulting in widespread atrocities such as the Nanking Massacre. An estimated 20 to 40 million people died, with civilians suffering the most from massacres, famine, and disease. The conflict merged with World War II in 1941, becoming one of its largest theaters. Chinese resistance played a crucial role in the Allied victory against Japan. The war left deep scars on both nations and set the stage for post-war Asia. Number 1. World War II, 1939 to 1945, 70 to 85 million deaths. World War II remains the deadliest conflict in human history, involving virtually every major world power. An estimated 70 to 85 million people died, including millions of civilians in the Holocaust, bombings, and mass atrocities. The war was fought on multiple fronts, from Europe to the Pacific, with major battles like Stalingrad and D-Day shaping its outcome. It ended with the Axis powers' defeat and the rise of the US and Soviet Union as superpowers. The war also marked the first use of nuclear weapons, bringing about immense devastation in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Its legacy reshaped the global order, leading to the Cold War and the establishment of the United Nations. These 10 wars reveal the devastating cost of conflict and the resilience of humanity in its aftermath. While history reminds us of the price of war, it also calls us to pursue peace. Understanding these events is crucial to ensuring that such tragedies are never repeated. Let us remember the lives lost and work toward a world where diplomacy triumphs over violence. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more history content. Until next time.